Good afternoon, welcome to Vanik-Ias. We'll discuss current affairs of 7th March. First is related to permanent Indus Commission meeting. Okay, so 117th meeting of permanent Indus Commission between India and Pakistan held earlier. The central government has decided to adopt new criterion for selecting members of Vanik-Ias Management Board. Okay, so permanent Indus Commission meeting happened. That is 117th. Next, what are the highlights of the meeting? Both sides discussed to exchange of hydrological and flood data, during which Indian underscored that its projects are fully compliant with the provisions of the Indus Water Treaty. Right? Okay, let's discuss what is first Indus Water Treaty. Indus Water Treaty, it is one of the most important component between India and Pakistan relationship. Right? Since after independence, our relationship with Pakistan has strained. But only one treaty, only in one dimension it is working perfectly. That is Indus Water Treaty. Because India is in it is in the upper riparian state, and India has not violated the Indus Water Treaty despite having the opportunity, right? But Pakistan Pakistan do not have the opportunity to misuse it. That's why it is a successful meeting. That's why it's a successful treaty, Indus Water Treaty. It is signed by Nehru, Pandit Nehru, and uh, Ayub Khan. The fact is that here there are six rivers, right? Ravi, Vyas, Satluj, and CJI. One is your Chenab, then I here Indus. The CJI, these three, that is Chenab, Jhelum, and Indus, that goes to Pakistan, and the water over Ravi, Vyas, and Satluj, that is for India. Okay, it has various. This interwater, it is too much discussed. It is said that it is the only water treaty in the world in which the upper riparian state, that is India, has less share in water. We'll go in detail into Indus Water Treaty, and there are many demands. For example, uh, Prime Minister said, blood and water cannot flow together, right? And another thing is that there is a various threatened by India to Pakistan that if any act of terrorism happen, then Pakistans will not be allowed to take water from this CJI or Chenab, Jhelum, and Indus, because India has the capacity to break the international treaty, that is the Indus Water Treaty. The issue of Fazilika drain. What is this Fazilika drain? The issue of Fazilika drain also discussed, and Pakistan assured that all necessary action will continue to be taken to ensure free flow of Fajr drain into the river Satluj. What is this drain? It is a drain. It is one of the 22 drains and water bodies which untreated water of Malwa district, Punjab, is discharged. Right, Fajr drain it was and Pakistan assured that all necessary action will continue to be taken to ensure free flow of Fajr drain into river Satluj. Right. In this drain, in case of Fajr drain, untreated water of Malwa district, Punjab, goes into Satluj River. The drain is closed at the borderline of the countries, leading to stagnation in the shape of ponds and deterioration of the quality of groundwater in the border area. So the drain is closed in the borderline of countries, that leading to stagnation of the shape of ponds. So this is a issue of Fazilika drain. It's a big drain, and it's create problem, right? If the waters are not discharged. In one hand, you have to see the whole river, water of the river that is getting polluted. On the other hand, if it is the challenge of urbanization in a particular area, if huge amount of water will be accumulate, then what will happen? Various diseases will be there that will pollute the groundwater. There are various challenges, right? Okay. Technical discussions will held regarding the ongoing projects, including Pakaldul, Kiru, and Lower Kalnai. These two projects, Pakaldul and Kiru, Lower Kalnai. This Pakaldul hydroelectric project, it is of 1000 megawatt, is proposed on river Morusudar tributary of Chenab River and Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. Remember, Morusudar is a tributary of Chenab River. Right? They may ask in prelim, Morusudar is a tributary of Chenab River. Pakaldul hydroelectric project of 1000 megawatt is going to set up in Jammu and Kashmir in that area. Okay, then Kiru hydroelectric project. Kiru hydroelectric project is 624 megawatt. Is proposed on River Chenab, located in Kiswar district of Jammu and Kashmir. Right. So Kiru hydroelectric project and Pakaldul hydroelectric project. Lower Kalnai project is a hydroelectric power project in Doda and Kishtwar district of Jammu and Kashmir. Lower Kalnai project, it is hydroelectric power project in the Doda and Kishtwar district of Jammu and Kashmir. So these are the three projects that are going to be established. One is your Pakaldul hydroelectric project, second is Kiru hydroelectric project, third is Lower Kalnai hydroelectric project. The Indian side explicitly conveyed that it is an upper riparian state. India has been providing information on extraordinary discharges of water from reservoirs and flood flows every year as monitored under the treaty. So India is upper riparian state so far as these rivers are concerned, and according to the treaty, India discharges all the information with respect to it. Then what is the history of Indus Water Treaty? Indus River Basin, that is six river: Indus, Jhelum, Chenab, Ravi, Vyas, Satluj. Right? You can shortly remember CGI for Pakistan. Chenab, Jhelum, and Indus. And flowing through Himalayan ranges to enter Pakistan, ending the south of Karachi. In 1947, the line of partition, aside from delineating geographical boundaries for India and Pakistan, also cut the Indus River system into two. Both the sides are dependent on the water from Indus River basin to keep their irrigation infrastructure functional, and therefore equitable distribution was needed. So, along with the partition of 1947, all the rivers got divided. Right. Initially, the Inter-Dominion Act of 1948 was adopted when both countries, after meeting a conference, decided that India would supply water to Pakistan and in an exchange for an annual payment made by the latter. India would supply water to Pakistan in exchange for an annual payment made by the latter. The agreement, however, soon disintegrated as both countries couldn't agree upon the common interpretations. Right? Initially, Inter-Dominion Act in 1940 was signed, in which it was said that Pakistan will pay money for India for water, but this couldn't be implemented. Okay, next what happened? In 1951, the backdrop of water sharing dispute, both countries applied to the World Bank for funding of the respective irrigation projects on Indus and tributaries, which when World Bank offered to mediate the effect. So basically, we know that this World Bank has also mediated in Indus Water Treaty. Final 1960, nearly a decade of fact-finding negotiation, proposals by World Bank and amendments to them. An agreement was reached between the two countries and Indus Water Treaty, that the IWT, signed by former Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru and the present President of Pakistan, Ayub Khan. Right. So Indus Water Treaty, it was signed between Jawaharlal Nehru and Ayub Khan, who is the President of Pakistan, and here World Bank has mediated. What are some of its key provisions? What are the key provisions of Indus Water Treaty? The treaty prescribed how the water from 6 rivers of Indus water system would be shared between India and Pakistan. Right? Okay. Next, it allocated 3 western rivers, that is Indus, Chenab, and Jhelum, to Pakistan. CJI, I have said, for unrestricted use. They can use as much as they use, barring certain non-conjunctive agricultural domestic users by India. Right? India cannot use it for agriculture and domestic. Sorry. Yes, India cannot use them in agriculture and in domestic uses. Right? India and the 3 eastern rivers, Ravi, Vyas, Satluj, were allocated to India for unrestricted uses. India can use the water of Ravi, Vyas, and Satluj, the 3 rivers. This means that 80% of the share of water, about 130 million acre feet, went to Pakistan, while leaving rest 20% of water used by India. So inequality is high. 80% of water goes to Pakistan, and 20% of what 20% water come to India. Which is, and so this is highly inequality. This is highly I mean, this is inequality and unequal distribution of water, we can say, in this water treaty. That's why various times various issues has raised with respect to it. So two things. One is 80% share goes to Pakistan, that is CJI, Chenab, Jhelum, and Indus. And 20% water comes to India, that is the Ravi, Vyas, and Satluj. Okay. Then Permanent Indus Commission. It also required both countries to establish Permanent Indus Commission constituted by permanent commissioners on both sides. Right, Indus Water Treaty that asked for permanent commission from both sides. Next, rights over rivers. While Pakistan rights over water of Jhelum, Chenab, and Indus, Annexure C of Indus Water Treaty allows India certain agricultural uses, while Annexure D allows to build of uh, run of the river hydropower projects, meaning that projects not requiring leverage storage of water. What do you mean by run of river hydropower projects? That means uh, suppose this is a river and you have here if there cannot be no dam can be established, because by that, right, by running flow, that is the mechanical energy that comes from running of a water of water, that mechanical energy can be converted to energy and we can have electric power, but there will not be storage of water. The treaty allows to raise objections over such projects being built by India, allows Pakistan to raise objections over such projects built by India. It doesn't find them to be compliant with the new specifications. India has to share information on the project design and alternations made with the Pakistans, which require to respond with the objections, if any, within 3 months of the receipt. Besides, India allowed to have minimum storage level in the western rivers, meaning that it can store of, that is 3.7 MAF of water for conservation and flood storage purposes. So if there is any issue comes, there are many times there is issues. If there is any issue comes, it is essential for India to inform the uh, infor- mm, to inform about the project to Indus Water Treaty that such type of dams are going to be made, and it need to ensure that those dams are, they are not dams, they are just runoff. They can generate electricity without storing the water. And dispute resolution mechanism. What are dispute resolution mechanism? The Indus Water Treaty also provides three-step dispute resolution mechanism under which question on both sides can be resolved in the permanent commission or can also be taken up at the intergovernmental level. Right, so there is also a dispute resolution mechanism between India and Indus Water Treaty. In case of unresolved question differences between both the countries, water sharing, such as technical differences, either side approach the World Bank to appoint neutral expert to come to a decision, and eventually, if either party is not satisfied with the neutral expert decision, disputes in the interpretation and extent of the treaty, matters can be referred to court for arbitration. So these are the dispute resolution mechanism, right? Both sides are resolved format commission. There will be permanent commission who will address the disputes. If they are not decided, if they are permanent commission, it's not settled, then you can any party can go to all back, right? And there will be a committee by experts of World Bank, and if still also people are not satisfied, the both countries are not satisfied with the decision of World Bank, they can go to court of arbitration. Okay, then dispute resolution mechanism. It's finished. Next we'll see. What is Permanent Indus Commission? It's a bilateral commission. It's a bilateral commission. Officials from India and Pakistan created to implement the goals of Indus Water Treaty 1960. So it's a Permanent Indus Commission that will implement the goals of 1950, 1960. The commission, according to the treaty, shall meet regularly at least once a year. Alternatively, India and Pakistan. Alternatively, India and Pakistan, they will meet the members of the commission. Third, the function of the commission include to study and report to the governments and on any problem relating to the development of the waters on the rivers. Study and report, right? The commission will study and report to both the governments to solve the disputes arising of water sharing, to arrange technical visits to projects and sites criminal river headworks. That means they will monitor the works. Then to undertake in every 5 years a general tour of inspection of rivers for ascertaining the facts. A general tour of inspection in every 5 years to take necessary steps implementation of the provisions of the treaty. To take necessary steps for implementation of the provisions of the Treaty of Indus Water. Right. So major problem of Treaty of Indus Water is that it allows 80% of water to be used by Pakistan and 20% of water used by India. Right. And if the issues are not solved, then go to the international arbitration. First you go to World Bank and then you go to the international arbitration. What is the history of Indus Water Treaty? This is gone. We have already discussed. We'll discuss the next topic, that is war crimes. Right. What is war crimes? Whenever war happens, law and order situation got get disturbed. And then the invaders they possess many crimes like killing of innocent people, sexual harassment, sexual oppression, and rape. All these things happen. But there is what happens? That generally law and order cannot maintain those things. Right. Okay. So what happened? We know that Russia has invaded Ukraine. So whenever a foreign country invades a particular region, then what happens? Obviously, their violation of human rights starts. Right? Violation of human rights starts. So, in that scenario, International Court of Justice has announced that it will open the investigation into possible war crimes. UNSC has announced International Court of Criminal Justice has announced that it will open an investigation into possible war crimes committed by Russia in Ukraine. So, what are the war crimes? War crimes. So, what are the war crimes that are committed by Russia in the Ukraine? That we will study. First, what are the International Criminal Court (ICC)? It is a permanent judicial body. Remember, it's a permanent judicial body created in 1988 under Rome Statute. 1998 under Rome Statute. Permanent judicial body of the ICC. That is, its funding and governing document. The began functioning in 1st July 2002 when the statute came into force. Headquarters The Hague, Netherlands. The Hague, Netherlands is the headquarters of International Criminal Court. 123 nations of the states in Rome Statute and recognize ICC authority. USA, China, Russia, India are not the members of International Court of Justice, right? But 130 nations obey them as a Court of Justice. Next, USA, China, Russia, and India are not the members. The forum was established as a court of last resort to offences that would investigate and that would otherwise get unpunished. Has jurisdiction over four main crimes: genocide, crimes against humanity, war crimes, and the crimes against aggression. These are the type of aggressions that were especially comes under the International Court of Justice. Then, what are war crimes? War crimes are defined as serious violation of humanitarian laws during a conflict. Serious violation of humanitarian laws, right? Mercilessly beating, rape, human harassment. All these are war crimes. The definition established by Rome Statute of ICC, derived from the 1949 Geneva Convention, it is based on the idea that individuals can be held liable for the action of state and ministry. Individuals can also be liable. You cannot say that it is the army that has directed it, and we have to follow the procedure. That will go against, that will work against the army also as well. The taking hostages, and killing, torture of inhuman treatment of prisoners of war, and forcing children to fight. Some of the more obvious examples. So these are the examples of war crimes. They force the children to work. They ask the youth to work. Right? Now, just 1 second. Then, what are the Geneva Conventions? In Geneva Conventions 1949 and their additional protocols in international treaties contain that most important rules limiting the barbarity of the war. What are the Geneva Conventions? They protect people who do not take part in the fighting, especially the civilians. Right? Those who are not taking part in fighting, what is the rights? What is the rights of the civilians, medics, aid workers, and those who can no longer fight, wounded, sick, shipwrecked troops, prisoners of war, they can no longer fight. This Geneva Conventions 1949 talks about those people. The first Geneva Convention protects the wounded and sick soldiers on land during the war. The second Geneva Convention protected the wounded, sick, shipwrecked military personnel at the sea during war. Third Geneva Convention applies prisoners of war Fourth Generation Convention protects civilians, including the occupied territory. That is the principle of Geneva Convention. That means even if a person is within the territory or occupying a territory, then that is the most important thing is that they should protect the civilians. What is criteria for war crimes? Criteria to decide whether an individual or a military has committed a war crime. International humanitarian law lays down three principles. Individual or military has committed a war crime. What are the three principles? First is distinction. It is illegal to target objectives that are expected to cause incidental loss of civilian life, injury to civilians, damage to civilians' objectives, who should be excessive in relation to the concrete direct military advantage anticipated. Next, proportionality. Proportionality prohibits armies from responding to an attack with excessive violence. Proportionality prohibits the armies from excessive violence. For example, if a soldier is killed, you cannot bomb the entire city in retaliation. This is what proportionality says. Right? It is illegal to target objectives that are expected to cause incidental loss of civilian life. So any type of objective or any type of step that affects the civilian life or injure civilians should not be there. Second thing is that if a soldier is killed, you cannot bomb the entire city in retaliation. That is proportionality. You should not do that. Precaution. It is required parties to conflict to avoid minimize the harm brought due to the civilian population. So this is so both the countries must take certain steps so that will minimize the effect on the civilian population, right? So one is distinction, second is proportionality, third is precaution. Okay, gray area definition. Raids on the cities and villages, bombing residential buildings, schools, even killing groups of civilians do not necessarily amount to war crimes. Not if military necessity is justified, right? These things cannot be accepted, that killing the school buildings and killing group of civil people and military necessity is not justified with respect to these areas. The same can act become a war if crime it results unnecessary destructions. So there should not be unnecessary destructions that will lead to war. Suffering and casualty is that exceeded the military gain from the attack. You should not, just because of military gain, you cannot affect the huge number of people's livelihood. Further, civilian and military populations have become increasingly hard to distinguish. You cannot. It has become very difficult to distinguish between the civilians and the military people. What is the difference between war crimes and crimes against humanity? The United Nations Office on Genocide Prevention and Responsibility protect Genocide Convention separates war crimes from genocide and crimes against humanity. War crimes are defined by occurring in a domestic conflict and war between two states. That is war crime. But genocide is a crime against humanity that happens when peacetime happens in the peacetime and during unilateral aggression or military towards the group of unarmed people. That is we can call it genocides. War crimes are especially linked to a particular time period. Then Sagar Parikrama. Ministry of Fisheries, Animal Husbandry and Dairying will inaugurate the Sagar Parikrama to know the problems of coastal river folk, to know the problems of coastal people, right? Especially fishermen. It is a navigation journey to be conducted in all coastal states and union territories through pre-decided sea route to demonstrate solidarity with the fisher folk, farmers, and concerned stakeholders. It is envisioned as a part of Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, right? Developing relations with fishermen and those communities by Sagar Parikrama. It will it will be conducted across all the states and union territories. The parikrama will start from Mandvi, Gujarat, and in the fast phase, Mandvi, Gujarat in the fast phase, and will be organized on the other districts of Gujarat and state subsequent phases. The first leg of Sagar Parikrama will start from 5th March 2022, that means already started, and Mandvi, and end at 16th March 2022. It's already also ended. The entire distance will be covered from the coastline Mandvi in the and the coast of Arabian Sea in the Kutch districts of Gujarat. It is situated as a estuary where the river Rukmavati, remember the river Rukmavati, near the Gulf of Kutch, there Sagar Parikrama started. Rukmavati is a south flowing river originating in the central Kutch district and empties into Arabian Sea. That is about Rukmavati, that is the river. Right. It will also conduct interaction programs with fishermen, fisher communities, and stakeholders in the locations districts in order to know the problem of coastal fisher folk. It is envisaged that in the sea across the coastal belt, demonstrating solidarity with all the fisher folk, peace farmers, and concerned stakeholders as a spirit of Atmanirbhar Bharat. Right. So Sagar Parikrama is a scheme of central government that is to ensure Atmanirbhar Bharat. It is a show of solidarity, right? And another thing is that the entire distance will be covered by coastline of Mandvi on the coast of Arabian Sea, right? Okay. So this is all about your Sagar Parikrama. What is the significance? What is the significance of Sagar Parikrama? It will focus on sustainable balance between the utilization of marine fisheries, utilization of marine fisheries resources for food security. Sustainable balance. What is this sustainable balance? Because of various anthropogenic activities, marine biodiversity is declining. What is the decline of marine biodiversity? First thing is that there is bottom trawling, right? That is unsustainable fishing. That means huge amount, that is the huge amount of fishing is getting undergone, right? On such unsustainable fishing. Bottom trawling means the net will be that will take the net of various layers of net will cover the upper surface of the sea, the lower surface of the sea, and that will lead to biological biodiversity loss. So this Sagar Parikrama will give a message regarding sustainable balance between utilization of marine resources and food security. Oceans are vital to economic security and livelihoods. Indian coastal states. The country has a coastline of 8,180 km covering 9 maritime states and UTs and 4 UTs, providing livelihood support to millions and of coastal fisher folk. Right. So the significance of Sagar Parikrama is huge, and that will establish that have objective to establish sustainable development. Then what is fishery sector? Fishery sector. It is the second major producer of fish. India is the second major producer of fish. Second major producer of fish through aquaculture in the world. India is fourth largest exporter of fish in the world and contributes 7.7% of global fish production. Currently, sectoral livelihood more than 2.8 crore people. Fishery provides livelihood of 2.8 crore people within the country. Nevertheless, there is sector untapped potential with untapped potential. The fisheries sector has demonstrated two digit coverage and annual growth of 10%. So there is huge potential and growth is very lucrative. With fish production around 140 lakh ton during 2020 and 2021 as per the economic survey 2021-2022. The Indian fisheries and aquaculture sector registered an average annual growth of 8%. Average annual growth of 8%. Okay, so fishery has a huge double-digit annual growth. It has a huge potential. There is a record high production of fish during 2021. India fisheries and aquaculture sector registering annual average growth of 7.53%, which is very huge, 7.53% more than national average. Despite challenges and potential infrastructure, the measures of central government in the past recent years ensure that fisheries sector continued to register an annual growth of more than 10%. So what are the schemes? What are the schemes so far as fisheries is concerned? First is what are the initiatives that are already taken for fisheries? That is fishing harbors, seed week park, Pradhan Mantri Matsya Sampada Yojana, park based scheme, marine fishery scheme, fishery and aquaculture infrastructure development, FIDDF, Kishan Credit Card, Marine Products Export Development Authority. So these are the authorities. These are so these are the steps that are taken by the central government to promote fishery in Indian marine ecosystem. Okay. Then decline of investment through participatory note. What is this participatory note? Suppose you are not registered uh, in the share market of India. Then what will happen? You will find somebody else who was registered, right? And as he has registration, he will take some money from you and he will invest in the particular industry, for example in Reliance. So that is basically they can, especially it is done by international players. Those international players who do not have any registration in India, they can also invest in Indian market. That is through participatory notes, right? According to Security and Exchange Board data of India, the value of participating note investment in the market is declined in 2022 as compared to December 2021. There was a region of a decline. This is the line of expectation of foreign investors were aggressive sellers, so that in 2022 continuing to be treated soon as 2033. For example, suppose you have taken 100 rupees and you want to invest in share market. But what will happen? There will be foreign entity who is not directly invest in share market. That's why he will invest here and he will say that transfer my money to the share market. This is participatory note. This money is called a participatory note. With Omicron fears largely behind, the investors were hopeful for rapid recovery in the global economy. However, With the US Federal Reserve taking the faster and sooner stance on the rate hikes, investors have been cutting their holding in risk assets across the board. Right. So COVID is one of the biggest cause that is basically reduces the prices. Then Ukraine geopolitical situation has put further pressure on already scared global investors. It is expected that foreign portfolio investors will continue their net negative stance till clarity emerges from end in the Ukrainian situation. So unless Ukraine situation has not developed, we cannot give any such clarity. Anything can happen. What are participatory notes? Let's know what is our participatory notes. Participative notes are offshore notes. These are offshore derivatives. Offshore derivative instruments issued by registered foreign portfolio investors. That means those registered APIs, those who are investing in share market, they can invest the money of other people who are not registered by participatory note. To overseas investors, see the again participatory notes are offshore derivative instruments issued by registered foreign portfolio investors to overseas investors who wish to part of the Indian stock without being registered themselves directly. So without getting registered, they can also invest that is through participatory notes. P notes of Indian stocks are their underlying assets. Then APIs are not residents. Foreign portfolio invests are not residents who will invest in Indian security like shares and government bonds or corporate bonds. So participatory note holders have less stringent registration requirements. They have to go to the proper they have to go through a proper due diligence process of SEBI. That's why they are not investing. They are directly investing in participatory notes. Then what is foreign portfolio investment? We know that there is FDI. There we know that there is FII. This FII is the foreign portfolio investment. That is the foreign institutional investment. Both are the same thing, right? They invest money in the capital market rather than the money market or in common public. FPI involves the holding financial assets from a country outside the investor's own. Holding the car includes stocks, right? Includes stocks, GDR, global deposit funds, bonds, mutual funds, exchange trade fund, etc. A GDR is a bank certificate issued in more than one country for share of foreign currency. That is GDR. Along with the FDI, FPI is one of the common ways investors to participate in the overseas concerns, especially in real investor. Unlike FDI and FPI, consists of passive ownership. Investors do not control our ventures, direct ownership or property or stake in a company. So this is your foreign portfolio investment. That is FPI is one of the common ways of investors to participate in overseas economy, right? If you are going to an overseas economy, you are also invest there. A foreign country, foreign population from foreign country also develop in also develop his money in India. So like this video, share this video and subscribe to Vanik-Ias. Encourage us to continue this program. Thank you.